Welcome to the 27, presented by The Classic, the world's first and only student-teacher podcast on the MCU. I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to keep saying it until the Dark Elves stop me. I am Mr. McCaughey, and joining us today to talk about Thor, the Dark World, are Lynda and Lisa. Welcome. How are you?
Hello.
It is good to have you here. Historical episode because you're the first seniors, non-juniors to appear. As I only teach juniors, so that's who I'm coming across, other than maybe seeing you all in the hallway. But I was happy that Lynda reached out to jump on an episode. And I think this is going to be the theme throughout our discussion today. No one wanted to talk about Thor, the Dark World. It was our open episode, so I was like, good news, bad news. You can come on. We only have this to talk about, but I think that'll make it that much more fun. So we like to learn about our guests before we get started. So why don't you tell us about you all and your friendship and everything like that.
All right. Hello, my name is Lynda. A fun fact about myself, I'm a nerd and I watched all of the MCU movies when there were, I think, 23 at the time in less than a week.
Wow,
yeah.
really?
Literally
That's
nonstop
dedication.
all day.
Good for you.
With my family. Yeah, it was over winter break, I think, last year.
That's a good use of a winter break.
Yeah.
It truly is.
Like, there was nothing to do, and I was like, you know what? We have Disney Plus now. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I've been watching Marvel movies since technically Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Yep.
It's older than we are, but
Older than you are.
yes.
Maybe not.
But I still watched it anyway. Watched it throughout elementary school, stuff like that.
Cool.
And I've been watching since the actual start of the MCU with Iron Man.
Yep.
But I really got into Marvel probably around 2016 when Doctor Strange came out. And I watched it like a million times on Netflix. It was like a comfort movie of mine. And my favorite characters are like Spider-Man, Iron Man, Loki, Doctor Strange, and Scarlet Witch.
A lot of people seem to like Doctor Strange.
He's
I know
awesome.
nothing about Doctor
Benedict
Strange, but
Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
It's all in Benedict Cumberbatch.
that's it. Starts and ends there.
Yes. So I'm Lisa. My Marvel journey started around the time that Infinity War came out, but the first Marvel movie I ever remember genuinely watching was Black Panther, and it was life-changing. It was amazing. But then I didn't get into Marvel until my friends forced me to watch Infinity War, and I was like, ooh, Benedict Cumberbatch, because at the time I was watching Sherlock BBC. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get into it. And so I was very excited. I watched it in the spaghetti order, as it is deemed. It's called the spaghetti order because the person who named it decided that they really liked spaghetti, and they wanted the entire Marvel fandom to have to abide by this name.
And is that what I'm doing now, or is this a totally different thing? Like I'm watching like chronological, starting with Iron Man, like you said.
So are you watching
Your
spaghetti
release order? Yeah.
No, I'm watching
What?
MCU order.
Oh wait.
Oh no,
wait.
sorry. I started with first one was Captain
I'm
America.
looking up because I
Okay.
listened.
Captain
So
America was our.
chronological.
I'm watching MCU
So yes, chronologically.
Yes.
Like I listened
I know why I said
to
that.
up to, yeah,
Yes.
because I was listening to it while washing the dishes, and I was like, this is great. Let's do
Lynda
it.
gets bonus points. I actually got to look at her phone and see her open to the page. Well, I'm excited because also I taught you last year.
You did teach
Lisa.
me, yes.
Lisa was an excellent student for
Oh,
many reasons.
Thank you.
First and foremost, though, just to start with, Lisa had her camera on every day,
Wow.
which was a really big deal. And I think it was also like last bands. Was that?
Yeah, it was ninth band.
So
You're
like
so strong.
long days of
You're so
sitting.
strong.
Yeah, I mean, last band A push is really difficult anyway. But after a long day of digital learning, that much more. And then I didn't teach you, Lynda.
No.
But I kind of reference this to you. If you don't know Lynda, you're actually wrong. You do know Lynda. Because some of the highlights of working at this school are those like performances that happen in the lobby pre-holiday break, Halloween. I actually said to Miss G during sing rehearsals, I was like, what is her name? Because I see her all over the place, and she's so talented, but I did not know you, so it was nice that I got your name there, so then when you reached out, I was like, oh, I know.
I'm like a proud mom whenever I come to school and Lynda's singing, and I have like my phone out recording. I have like 7 recordings of Lynda just singing as I'm procrastinating going to AP Stat.
Yes, well, good job. Well, I'm happy to have both of you here. It's really cool. So we start by talking about the movie itself, kind of the overview. So Thor, the Dark World, released November 8th, 2013. This might be a little bit of a curveball question because I threw it in. Do you remember what you were doing in 2013? So we're talking about like 9 years ago.
Being 8 years old.
8 years old. Gosh
I
darn.
I was in the third
Third
grade.
grade.
Yeah.
When-
I was a few months away from getting into Harry Potter.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yes.
Just looking at the date, this came out 2 days after my oldest son's first birthday, which is
Aw.
like a lifetime ago. Now, like,
Yeah.
he's 9 now, so to go back and think about when he turned 1 is pretty wild. This movie made $206 million despite the apparent hate of it. Still made decent money, but it actually ranks pretty low, number 21 of 27 out of the 27 films. We have pretty much all of our friends from the original Thor returning, from Chris Hemsworth to Anthony Hopkins, Natalie Portman, Tom Hiddleston. Do we have thoughts on
Yeah.
Loki? Are we
Yes.
big Loki?
I love
Everyone
Loki.
loves
Loki.
I love
I'm sure we will talk
I'm a
about
Loki
that.
lover in case that
Oh.
was it.
Excellent. Stellan Skarsgård, Idris Elba, who's awesome as Heimdall, but the introduction here of Renee Russo, who is Frigga, who is the mother of Thor and Loki. So we have that there. Directed by Alan Taylor. You watch Game of Thrones? You ever watch Game of Thrones?
I know of
He directed a bunch of those episodes and the not so well received prequel to The Sopranos, the movie that came out, The Many Saints of Newark. He directed that. I didn't see it. Love The Sopranos. Didn't watch it because of how many people said how bad it is.
Yeah.
Much like Thor Dark World.
Interesting.
So we kick off with our IMDb synopsis. When the Dark Elves, I'm going to talk about that. When the Dark Elves attempt to plunge the universe into darkness, Thor must embark on a perilous and personal journey that will reunite him with Dr. Jane Foster. Before we jump in, we're going to try here to find good things to say about Thor. I mean, we're already kind of running it down a little bit. That's kind of been the theme so far. But that's the thing to start with. No one likes this movie. You ask anyone.
Yeah.
And this is why I haven't heard anyone be like, well, actually, like, so maybe we can, try to find some silver lining around Thor as we go through our chat today. Okay, so we'll start with that. What do we think? Linda's ready to go.
I did say I like the colors. Okay.
I'm sure that,
besides
okay.
that-
Now that we're done with that.
Yeah. No, okay. Because, I act, direct, write. So I have a little bit of experience in those. I don't like to blame the actors for this movie. Because I don't think the acting was bad, personally. I think, for the most part, I think that a lot of the fault was in the directing and writing of
Okay.
it. But I do think that the actors did pretty well with what they were given. So yeah, that's basically it.
Well, when it comes to the writing, I feel like any movie where you have to fully explain the backstory of
Yeah.
it before it starts, it's
That's-
like this just feels lazy. Like it couldn't be revealed at the beginning or anything. There's no kind of mystery to it. It's just like, okay, so we're gonna take about a minute off the top just to explain everything about the background.
Yes.
So yeah, a little uninspired there.
We both took notes, the info dumping at any moment.
Not great.
Not so much.
I think one thing I wrote that I did enjoy is that the wigs were better in this time around than in the first movie.
So that is Chris Hemsworth's real hair this time.
I did
That's
not
a
know
difference.
that. That makes sense.
I always try to find some random facts about it, and
Yeah.
he wanted to grow his hair out.
Mm-hmm.
I think because of the poor wig in the first episode.
Did they bleach his eyebrows in the first movie because of the wig?
Potentially, I don't know.
I think
Oh
they
my.
did, and it was a terrible mistake.
That Hemsworth rocked his natural hair.
That's it.
But yes, something else that I liked mostly throughout the movie was Loki and Heimdall. They're
Mhm.
my favorite
Yeah.
characters throughout the movie. They are the only ones who actually feel like they have personality, I'd feel, and also facial expressions. I think even though, like Linda said, a lot of the blame can't really be put here on the actors because I don't think they were given a lot of leeway with what they could do. But I do think that their actors took it very far, and they definitely had very good facial expressions throughout it. You feel like they're genuinely reacting, and I don't feel like many of the other characters are doing that.
And so this is 3 in a row now with Loki kind of being at the center of it because we did Thor, Avengers, and now this. And again, the acting is really good. He's really good. Tom Hiddleston's really good. And it's a pretty complex character. There's always something to him. And we see it again with this where does he care that his mother is killed? Does he not? Is he he kind of goes on that kind of journey and, flipping to the end, which did he faked his death? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that get
Yes,
explained
he
at
did.
another time? I mean, clearly he did, but like, I don't know.
He is a
seemed to
trickster,
trick
that
everyone.
one, yeah.
Again, speaking to the good parts of Loki, he is in fact a trickster. Him and Thor are like super emo in this movie.
Oh,
They
There's
are.
like a lot
Yes.
like, and Thor makes like a hard turn. I described it in the last episode as like, he has like bro energy. He's very like, hey, let's go do this. Get softened up on Earth, but they are both like super in their emotions in these movies, which for Thor, I don't know, he's a king, he's a god, and then he's just like kind of so bummed about Jane, which, you know, relationships, they're difficult, they're not easy, but I don't know, for the powerful Thor, he really jumps into those emotions pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But
Something that seemed to be a running theme throughout this movie, I feel, was just that none of the characters felt like they really had much motivation to do anything that they were doing, and like Jane especially.
Yeah, Jane
Jane-
had no personality.
Honestly, I do not think. Hello, 5-minute bell.
we got 5 minutes, we gotta wrap up.
I do not think she had any real purpose in this movie. Like, they didn't give her anything other than getting absorbed by the ether, but none of that was her decision. It's like she's constantly being led through this story, and not that she's making any conscious decisions of her own, except for maybe slapping Thor twice and then Loki once,
Yeah.
which were really badly, like, sound effect. It was, and it was slightly off time too, I
Yeah.
felt. It was just very much the, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's not how a slap actually should sound.
Yeah, so better Foley work. We
Yeah.
can criticize the Foley work on this as well. Even just with Jane in general, like, she's an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
And then it's just like out the window, and I get it, Thor is Thor. But at the same time, like, all this just goes out the window. Yeah, and like you said, there's not much to her in this as well. Speaking of not much to them, so much of these movies for me are like rating the villain. So again, speak to Loki in Thor, Loki in the Avengers, does like a really good job there. The Dark Elves are just brutal.
No.
Like, everything about them, I'm just not buying. First of all, I know this is the MCU. I know this is not our civilization. I feel like we've agreed that elves are good in our world. We have the Keebler elves. We have Santa's elves.
Yeah.
We have Lord of the Rings, have some good elves in there. So I just can't get elves as villains anyway. Even when I read the description, the dark elves plunge the universe into darkness. They're just not.
Wow.
That's literally the
That's
description.
descriptive.
And it's just like, they don't do anything for
No.
me whatsoever. I don't know, any further thoughts
I
on the
was
dark elves?
spacing out at some points during those battle scenes. I was like, I don't know what started the battle. I was like, oh, it's done now. You know, I know Lisa, there was no build up, no payoff, nothing.
None at all. None. I love combat scenes. It was punch, punch, punch. Oh, would you look at that? There's a big guy. We slapped the big guy.
Yeah.
Everyone's done now.
Yeah.
And it's like,
He's like, okay, this
Okay.
is combat for combat's sake, not
Mhm.
for like the plot,
yes.
of which there was way too much going on.
I feel like there's so much going on and also nothing at all.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I couldn't follow.
As you say that, I'm like, yeah, I think there was a lot going on. It does, but like, there's probably many things happening, but
There's
they're just all empty.
A
They're
lot
not
of
like.
information to get through, especially because they're introducing a new Infinity Stone. They're introducing the Reality
Yes.
Stone, which is the Ether, and it's like, okay, let's talk about that, and then they're like, no, we're good.
We're good on that.
We're good on that. You get it. You get it.
Even like the convergence, or like it's just like, what is this thing that they're lining up?
yeah,
I don't
the
know what the
universes
point of that
and
was.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least to go back to Loki, I thought the end had some interest to it. Just the kind of turn where Loki does his kind of shape shifting, and now he's Odin. And that's what I'm curious. I kind of asked it before, like. He seemed to die. I know that's the point of these things, that like it's a little bit tricky. Without seeing any, is this come up anywhere or in any future
Right.
movies or anything?
Yeah.
That.
Well, it gets a little.
You haven't watched Ragnarok yet.
No, I have not.
No.
It gets deeper into that later in Ragnarok.
Okay, so it does right because
Yes.
I even went back and was like, did I miss something in terms of like he's dead, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden
And
it's
then
that,
he's
and that's
there,
how the
yeah.
movie
Should we
ends there.
explain what happened a little?
Yeah,
Like very,
You can talk about
it's
it, talk
very
about it.
simple. Literally, he has the power to like make fake doubles of himself.
Yes.
And so he like switched himself
So
out with
that
a fake
was
double.
one of the
Mhm.
doubles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. So so he wasn't there the whole time. Is that it? When he was killed?
I
I truly don't know.
This is a problem.
I don't think they explain it until the Loki Loki series, which came out the summer.
It's like
Last
recent.
This past summer,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean,
After 8 years.
if we're trying to be fair about these, and if we're not just looking to trash this movie, like, this is a problem. Like, if we're
Yes.
trying to, like, solve this as we go, and it still doesn't make any sense, and when it does make sense, it's 8 years after the fact on a TV show,
Yeah,
then
of which not a
we've
lot of
gone
people
astray.
can watch because
Yes.
it's on a paid
Because then
Platform.
it's
Yeah.
on Disney Plus.
exactly.
But shout out to Thor for knowing how to fly an alien spacecraft. That was
I
one of my
agree.
things, you know, never been on before. This is always my, like, I say this a lot, the, like, suspension of disbelief. Like,
Yeah.
could this really happen? He just gets
No,
just
I
gets
say
he's
this.
like,
I point
so
stuff
here
out
I
like
go.
that all the time, and my dad's like, "Linda, shut up."
That's not what this
Just
is
watch
about.
the movie.
Well, you always start with the point like you are watching a like comic book superhero movie, whatever. But then there are times where it's like this is you just got on that thing and flew that no problem.
Yeah.
There's been in reality a little bit too much
He
here.
hung Mjolnir on a little coat rack.
And it didn't break?
Yeah, and then when he
Okay.
pulled it back to him, it still didn't break
It's
off the coat rack.
This is the thing that can like hold down the Hulk in the Avengers. Like it
Yes.
can pin down basically anyone.
Yeah.
But this
But
coat
it-
rack from like IKEA, it can
Yeah.
do it.
Hey,
Yeah.
you ever make something from IKEA?
That
You
is-
know,
that's true.
Besides the personal fulfillment you get from it, they do have some really strong ones. Oh no, they're generally pretty crummy. Pretty crummy. Except for that one, they should put that
Yes.
out and whatever crazy Swedish name it has. They usually have hard to pronounce. Although you give me the hammer name again, I just called that.
Mjolnir or Jonathan or Mew Mew.
Jonathan comes from an interview with Ant-Man's actor, in which they
McCaughey.
asked
Yes.
a lot of them, a lot of the actors, like,
What was his name?
what's the name of the hammer? And he says Jonathan.
Good
And
for him.
so-
That's it. By the way, it's a very Paul Rudd type of thing to do.
Yes.
Because I just would say I wouldn't know it, as I just did a few seconds ago. But he
Yeah.
comes up with Jonathan.
And then Darcy calls Mjolnir Mew Mew, which I think is the best thing to come out of the movie.
Another good thing to
Yeah.
I don't have my pen or pencil with me for our list of good things, but
Oh,
there's
yes.
one right there. Darcy's good. She like fits the character,
Yeah.
except when she breaks in. This is the assistant, right? And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, sorry, I couldn't. When she breaks up the date she's having in the beginning, but
Yeah. Something I wanted to bring up was like the pacing throughout this movie as well, because like I mentioned earlier in the combat scenes, like it feels like there's no build up at all, but then there are just certain moments where it's like this should really be a lot faster than it is, or we should give this time to sink in. Like there was one part,
Thor and Loki's fight.
Thor and Loki's fight. Okay, so well I'm gonna talk instead about Loki's last line before he quote unquote dies.
Right.
I didn't do it for him. Oh my god, that is a beautiful line. It hits so hard because it's like, is the implication that he did it for Thor, or is the implication that he did it for their mom, or like, et cetera, et cetera. But then, as I said earlier, I didn't feel like Jane had much purpose in this movie, and so it's like there's this beautiful moment, and then we cut to Jane. And I was like, why are we cutting to Jane? It's the brothers moment. Give it to the brothers. And it could have been like just this. If they held it out for maybe like 3 more seconds and then they cut to Jane, it would have been fine.
and she was serving no purpose in that scene.
No.
anyway.
No.
It wasn't even like, yeah, that's fair.
And what was it? Just the cinematography in general was nothing.
Left much to be desired.
Yeah, nothing special. There was this one scene Lisa and I were talking about specifically, like at the beginning of the movie, where they just like have a really. It's not even like a good close up. It's a really weirdly angled close up of Thor's abs. And it's like, why are we looking at this? I know why we're looking at this to appeal to certain audiences, but you know, like
We don't need it.
No.
He's just standing there shirtless, looking out into the sky, and
Oh,
it's like,
yes.
what emotional properties does this have for this movie?
And that's nothing. Although I forgot that was on my notes too, just Thor's abs. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's nothing.
But yeah, to add on to the pacing, Thor and Loki's, their fight. I don't even remember what they were on their way to. Probably to battle someone, Malekith or something like that. And they were like, "Oh, we're fighting. Oh, I hate you. Oh." And then they're like, "Oh, Frigga, she would expect this." And then they forgive each other. And then I'm like, what just happened?
Now, to be fair, I notice this with my own children, who will kill each other to the point of these types of fights, and then all of a sudden turn around and they're like, hey, what's going on?
That is
So maybe,
But also, it's like, it's not like a child fight, you know?
True.
First, they're grown adults.
True.
Although I think, canonically, Loki is like 17 in
Don't
Asgardian
tell me
years.
that. Don't tell me that.
I could
That's
be
so
wrong.
weird
I
to
could
me.
be wrong. I could be
17?
wrong. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's a teenager, like
Oh
in
my gosh.
the equivalent to Asgardian, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, because they're so old.
yeah,
They're lived to be
exactly.
thousands of years old. Interesting.
I could be wrong. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure.
It's like the spider web of all these movies.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like
Who knows?
Shoot on, yeah.
Yeah. But it's like they're talking about very serious stuff. They're talking about the death of their mother. They're talking about like whose fault it was, and just the serious stuff. Like they've always had kind of a rocky relationship because of Odin, who I hate, and I'll talk about that later. Oh, I don't like this man. I love Anthony Hopkins though, but yeah.
And both of those statements are fair. I think.
Yeah. Like they get over with it so quickly, and they're like all of a sudden like, yeah, we're homies now. I'm like, oh, so stupid.
Well, then, what is your Odin thought then?
Oh
You-
boy. I am an Odin auntie through and through. I hate this man. he willingly adopted Loki.
Yeah.
As his
Kidnapped
son.
him.
Kidnapped him.
Like, starts by
Let's be
kidnapping.
honest.
Yeah.
He kidnapped him. And then he clearly favors Thor over him. And it's like, hey, if you're gonna steal this kid from his family, at least, like, treat him equally to his sibling.
Yeah, because there's already going to be damage when he finds out
Yeah,
that he
he's-
was kidnapped,
Yeah,
stolen.
exactly. And then he's just dramatic for the sake of being dramatic, just to start drama. I think he's bored. I think that's what it's it.
When you live to be 5,000 years old.
Yeah,
you know,
he's like,
guess.
I gotta start something. You know, he sucks and is the worst dad ever. Amen.
Oh, words. Wow, but I mean, Thor's pretty good. The son turns out pretty good. No, not so much on
I
Thor.
mean, okay. Thor is a great character. Thor is a great character in the first movie and in Ragnarok, but in this one, again, he's just lacking everything.
Yeah.
Like, he is a himbo through and through.
Himbo. There
Yes.
you go. Himbo. I
But
get it.
I do think, I cannot think of a reason right now, but I'm pretty certain he probably also has some trauma
Oh,
from
yeah.
this relationship.
Yes.
You know, like they were definitely screwed up a little by their
It
their
manifests
parentage.
differently.
Well, like, technically, while Loki's, like, locked up in the dungeons, like, Thor is at his peak. You know, like, he's
Mhm.
brought peace. He's going to be the king now. Which is why even more so when he's just like,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, himbo mimbo. I
Yes.
think that's
Yeah.
pretty
Yes.
solid, and the ab scene doesn't help.
No,
no,
not at
yeah,
all.
Interesting. Okay, so not the biggest fans of the Thor family, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, we love Loki.
I love
Okay, but
Loki.
he's an outsider. You know,
Yeah,
technically,
that is
so maybe
true.
there's
This is our
something in
humanity.
the.
He's Lawfison, not Odinson. But you know what? Family isn't just blood, guys.
True, very true.
I love Frigga, and I'm so like okay. Ooh, her death should have been later on, and I think her funeral should have been after the events of basically everything. I feel like it would have been more meaningful there. Talk about the continuity thing you were talking about, because
Oh, the continuity
Yeah.
thing. Okay. So it boggles my mind how this movie can have like okay. So essentially the funeral scene.
Yeah.
They have Frigga in her boat. They
Yeah.
light up the boat, send it out, and then there's all these other boats with all the other like Asgardians who passed in this battle. And so Frigga goes off the waterfall. Her soul floats into the sky.
Right.
And then we cut to all of the living Asgardians holding souls in their hands.
Interesting.
That's not the same as the thing we just saw literally 2 seconds ago. Why are they being released into the sky from the living? Why not from the boats?
like the
Is,
only
is the fact that she's queen?
that's what
does
yeah
this
that's
make
what
a
I'm saying.
difference?
Like that's like the only rationale
Yeah.
that would make any sort of sense. But also it's like equality.
Do you believe that Asgardians believe in inequality?
Not at all, but
Yes.
you know what?
A very different sacrifice.
Yeah.
Okay. That's more of a Midgard
If you're looking
thing.
at Odin,
that's not
yeah.
an
Oh well,
Asgard thing.
that's a
More than Asgard. More than Asgard. Can we say that?
Yeah.
Sure.
But I mean, Viking funeral's the way to go out.
Oh yeah,
I can go
Oh,
anyway.
yeah.
for sure.
I don't know what body of water we get sent out on though, but I don't know.
Bound Park for me. The Bound Park pond.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, speaking of equality, this is a very short point. I was 5 seconds away from applauding this movie for having a black alien.
Oh my god.
And then the black alien proceeds to decide to sacrifice himself for this horrible cause. And so,
Yes.
and like, also he was a sidekick the entire time. And so, is it really representation?
Yeah, and like Heimdall, you know, he was there throughout most of it.
Love Heimdall.
I love Idris Elba. Okay. But like, I looked at the cast list. There were what, 4 people of color?
4 people of color.
4 people of color. There was Idris Elba, the
alien I just
alien.
mentioned.
The aforementioned alien, Benicio del Toro, who was in
Is at
the
the end,
post-credit scene,
Yep.
As the collector.
And then one of Thor's friends.
Yes, one of Thor's friends
One.
is Asian.
Yes.
Yes.
and
And
that's
then gets left
it.
on the other planet they were fighting
Yeah,
on, or
and
whatever they were doing.
There is this one other person who is an extra.
And yeah, even in Asgard, like the Asian friend is from Asgard, but there don't seem to be any other Asian
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
there.
it's like-
Interesting.
The math is not mathing. It is not. Just one specific line. When Thor is mansplaining the collision or whatever
This
it's
podcast
called.
is taking a turn,
Yeah,
by
the
the way.
the
We are
colliding.
really starting.
And then he's like this with Jane, and they're like, oh, looking into each other's eyes, and Jane is like, I like the way you explain things. I wanted to throw up.
But this is again the point. Like I brought this up in the Thor episode. She's an astrophysicist.
Yes, she's like
who's
so
just
smart.
for argument's sake, just say she's in her 30s. Like roughly, she's in. To be an astrophysicist, that is a lifetime of work. That
Mhm.
then she has developed into this like she has all this equipment and she's studying these solar events. And then it all goes away. Then she's just this like gaga, like, oh, I like Thor.
Yeah.
She could have flown the ship.
She could have.
She could
Ah.
have flown the
Could
ship. And I mentioned it because while they're in the ship, they're
Oh
fighting.
my god.
They're fighting. Loki and Thor are like, oh, blah, blah, you thought that you know how to fly the ship. I don't, blah, blah, blah. It's an alien ship, etc.
Yeah.
Jane is in the background. And then 5 seconds later, she's not in the background anymore. Where'd she go? And then, like, a minute later, there's a shot of her collapsing. You
Yeah.
know what would have been better? Because there was no build up to her collapsing. We know that she's sick, etc. But, like, in this exact moment, like, there should at least be some sort of, like, oh, no, I'm feeling so weak. And
Yeah.
then she collapses, so at least has a bit more power. But no, she just collapses. She could have been like, move out of the way, boys, and then
Yeah, I
flies
can do
the
this.
ship.
Because they
And
even
then she collapses.
when she gets to Asgard and they do that like body scan of her, like
Mhm.
she's teaching them. She's like, "Oh, is this a?" I forget the science term. And they're like, "Oh, in fact, that is what it is." And they're impressed by her.
Yeah.
But then she fluctuates back to this
Yeah.
like just kind of that stereotypical
She's
damsel in
literally an
distress
object.
type deal.
She's literally an object in the movie. She is the ether basically throughout the entirety of the movie, and it's like, she's so smart. I love Natalie Portman. She did not like that role. She got written
I
out
feel
because
like
she did not like
yes.
that role.
Is she
Like,
in Ragnarok?
She-
No,
is
she's
not.
not.
Interesting.
So
Yes.
in the post-credits scene where she goes and makes out with Thor for whatever
Yes.
reason, that's not Natalie Portman. It was a body double.
Really?
Yeah, she literally did not want to do it anymore, and she was like, "I'm out of here," and they got a
Wow.
body double to do that
Interesting.
scene.
As discussed in the Thor episode, I'm a longtime big Natalie Portman fan.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
I mean,
her.
she's a great actress.
Yeah.
as
She's a
well.
wonderful actress.
So then we end up here, which would make sense where she's kind of like out, that she would
Mhm.
kind of opt out after this. But that's so, I don't even know how to describe that. That is just like a body double. For, by the way, this like throwaway post-credit
Yeah,
scene.
exactly.
It's the second post-credit scene.
doesn't
So,
contribute to anything.
so then to speak to that one, we have the Collector, we have the second Infinity Stone
Yeah.
because the Tesseract is in Asgard. They're brought here. It's brought to the Collector, but there's definitely, again, without knowing these things, some foreshadowing that he says, that's 1 of 5. So he's
Mhm.
referring to the Infinity Stones? Is that
Yeah.
what they're
Yeah.
talking
Yes.
about there?
Yeah.
And that they will be, Thanos will get his hands on them at some
Mhm.
point from piecing things together without having watched all of it.
That's like Infinity War basically is Thanos like attempting
Yes.
to collect all
Collect
of the
Again.
Yes.
Okay.
Infinity Stones. Yeah.
Good to know.
And
Okay.
that sorry,
No.
that post-credit scene is like connecting. I don't know if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, but it must have been long enough ago where I didn't. When I was doing my research, like, oh, this is like a connection to
Yeah.
Guardians, but
Mhm.
I did not remember what that was. But
Yeah.
maybe I'll figure that out once I see it again. So now we've come time to talk about where we put this movie,
Oh.
which this will be an interesting one. You saw 23 at the time, up to 23. You filled in
And I
the
filled
previous
in
4.
since.
So we could look at this in a few ways. When we have sequels, we could talk about within the Thor movies, this sounds like a pretty solid 3.
Oh, yeah.
Number 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You like Ragnarok better than the first one?
Yeah.
So much. So much.
Okay. Because I think I like the first one. When I do my listing, so I'll rank one, and Thor for a brief moment was my number 1. Just because I thought it was funny, I thought it was good. I like the actors in it. Great cast. I think these have the best cast, like top-notch actors in them. So this is number 3 there. Yeah, this is not, as we've kind of been discussing. This movie is not it. So then within your Marvel world, or when you think of these Marvel movies, is this the worst one that you've seen?
Okay, for me personally, I'm gonna say yes.
Oh,
because,
wow, this is big.
Yes.
You know, to be able to have someone come on and say, this is the worst one.
Yes. Okay, I must say though, it's been a while since I've rewatched all of the movies. I didn't rewatch them all last winter break, but you know. But yeah, it's gotta be real low.
There's
so
just not
much
much to
about
it.
It's just the directing, like the lack of general character existence. Like they just don't have personalities. I can't do it. I need lovable and likable characters to get through a movie.
And and then like if Thor is lovable and likable in the first one, not so much. We've already talked about losing it here.
Yeah.
Interesting.
See, Loki is enough to power me through the entire movie. I don't remember the Incredible Hulk, and I really did not like the Eternals. So I would say number 25 out of 27.
Okay. So again, bottom of the list, and I'm just gonna join you all. So I'm up to number 7. This is episode number 7, and this is a clear number 7.
Oh yeah.
However, as I've been previewing in all these episodes, Iron Man 3 is also a very bad movie.
I disagree.
Let's just do Iron Man 3.
I disagree. Okay, because Iron Man is one of my comfort characters. I love him so much. I don't even think
nothing wrong with Iron Man.
I don't
it's
think
not an Iron
the
Man problem.
Oh, no,
it's
no.
a Mandarin problem.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot to that movie.
Yeah, but I.
But the mental health of it all.
Yeah, the mental health of it all.
It's more than just, but
Like,
now we're stepping outside of the evaluating the movie.
though.
Now we're talking about, now so it's becoming a Lynda thing.
No, that doesn't matter. He's becoming a father to this little kid.
See, that was the bad part.
No!
That was the bad part. It's like, why is he here? Why is he
family.
Fair enough. That's also the thing, like, as you all were talking about cinematography, or I was talking with another student, one of our producers, Adam, about the score. A lot of those things just go past me. Like, as stated, you might have heard me say this in class, or my students here, y'all are smarter than me. So a lot of things go past me that you would probably appreciate more. But sadly, Thor, The Dark World has ended up at the bottom of our list.
Yeah.
Absent, what did we say? What were some good things? The colors.
Yes.
The wigs.
The wigs.
Loki.
Chris Hemsworth's
Loki.
real hair. And Loki. If Loki was not in this movie,
It would
just,
be
this
the
would be like
worst one of the
number.
barrel.
This would be like number 28.
Yeah.
27.
Like negative.
Yeah. Fair enough. So we are the 27. We're available on Apple Podcasts. If you're listening to us there, if you find us there, leave us a 5-star review. We're on Spotify. We are on Letterboxd. Do you know Letterboxd?
I do
You
not
seem
know
to
what
be like
Letterboxd
film
is.
people. So one of our guests, Amber, told us it's a website where you can make your own lists of movies, but then interact with people too. Like, this is my list, here's why I did, and then people can check that out. So we're running my list there, which has a new number 7, a bottom, which is Thor, The Dark World. You can find us on Instagram at the 27THHS. Our friends at The Classic have Operation Tomato Meter. Death on the Nile was one of their recent episodes. Jess, do we know what we're doing after Death of the Nile?
We are doing an Oscars episode for the break.
I've already talked to it, so no strong feelings about the movie Belfast from the Tomato Meter people.
I have no idea what that is.
Neither do I.
This was like the movie. This movie was like,
Really?
in terms of Oscars, I think it was like the big movie of the Oscars. Kenneth Branagh is kind of, it's not a biopic, but it's about his life. It's roughly based on his life. So check out Operation Tomato Meter. The Hit Pod, our U.S. history podcast. Super exciting. We'll have some new episodes coming out. We had some students generate some already. We'll have more coming out, especially when we get into A-Push season, which I know you will miss this year.
I'm going to miss it so much.
AP exam all lines up. It's always a dangerous question, but I should ask this at the beginning to the seniors. I learned you can't ask a senior this during like first semester, like,
Mhm.
how are you doing? Is a really dangerous senior question. How's senior life now? Are we like,
Much better.
It's a bit better. It's a
Much
bit better.
a little
yeah.
bit better? Okay.
Well, especially for Lynda and I, now that sing season is well and over.
Yeah.
And
It probably took you this long to recover from sing.
yeah, it took a good like month or two to fully gain strength again.
Yeah, I can see that because it's a multi-month giving of everything you have
Yes.
to get through. So,
Like what, 5 months?
Yeah, but
Oof.
wow, intense. But now you're on the other side. Graduation's on the way. We're
No,
moving.
it's not.
We're moving towards it. Well, thank you to Jessica, our producer. Thank you to you all. It was really nice to chat with you. It's
Yeah,
good to
nice to
see
talk
you
with you.
again,
Nice to see you in
Lisa,
person.
and to
Nice to
fully
talk to
talk
you.
with you, Linda. We'll be back next week. Iron Man 3. Linda.
Oh.
We're doing it. So, Linda, I invite you to listen to that podcast. If you would like to come find me in 415 and have a chat about it, I'd love to talk with you about it.
We'll
But
have a nice debate.
yes, well, thank you again, and we will see everyone next week on the 27th. See you later.